of my video diary for the EDM 8262. So the concept we covered this week was multiplication, and quite surprisingly, I actually found this week the easiest week to grasp so far. Don't know whether that was because I've just got used to how it works a lot more and understanding the different concepts behind the mathematics, but this week it all finally sort of gelled and it made a lot more sense to me. So I'm using this to synthesize the big ideas covered this week. I really liked the Hindu method of multiplication. I saw how it could be so easily translated for small numbers and big numbers and be exactly the same difficulty. This was interesting because when it comes to doing bigger numbers or either our traditional methods, it gets extremely long and harder, and that's when we start to use a calculator. But it's no more difficult to do 15 times 3 with the Hindu method than doing 4004 multiplied by 343. Another thing that came up was the use of times, and I think we all do it because it's our times tables and that sort of thing. Then I also noticed that during all the resources I was looking up, a lot of them mention times, which, as was brought up, is quite similar to a clock. So we don't want to get children to get considering the wrong thing and thinking we're talking about time when we're really talking about multiplication. I personally learnt through my multiplication tables through rote, practicing over and over again, which, yes, it does work, but whether it's the most effective method and helps children understand, I don't think it is. I think there's a lot of better ways that we can help children understand the maths rather than just knowing the answer off the top of their head, which I think is a practice that we're trying to lean towards more, as it allows children to adapt their knowledge in different areas. The strategies I found interesting. A lot of them made things that we learnt in EDMA 202. We learnt the strategies, but this actually makes them why they're a strategy now. It's not just, oh look, this is cool. It works like this, and this is the order of how you can teach it in. Especially when we talked about how going from doing the tens timetable is actually the best way to go. Just looking at my list, just looking at my list of things I wanted to talk about. Hindu method, the times, perfect. Yeah, so my final thing I want to say about this week is how we spoke about the lowest common multiples and the factors, and how that is at the core because it allows children to understand how different numbers work with one another. With repeated addition, that is multiplication, you obviously need to use at some stage one of those factors to be able to get there, which is quite interesting because I never really saw why you needed it, but once especially the factors were used and also the multiples, it makes a lot more sense. And also how we need to be careful with how we explain things, such as the commutative property. We call them turnarounds, and that is that children only need to learn 9 times 3 instead of 3 times 9, or vice versa. Probably you would do 3 times 9 rather than 9 times 3 because it's the easier one to learn. But that was interesting for me, as I would have never known the names of these, but in my head I know it. So I think it's kind of as a teacher writing down all the things you expect to sort of do, but finding a way to make them relevant to children. So thank you. I hope you enjoy reading my blog post, and I'll speak to you next week. Thank you.